Okay, before you get all upset with me, I'm just repeating what the king of silver mining said. Here's an edited down version from a recent speech.
I don't look at silver as money. I don't think silver will ever become money. Gold is money.
Maybe Keith Newmeyer is right. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at silver as money. But before you get mad at me and start blowing up my comment section, just pause. Maybe, just maybe, we are in fact limiting the value of silver by thinking about it as money. Take platinum, for example. No one really considers platinum to be money, and look what it's done for the platinum prices over time. I know that we've always referred to silver and platinum as monetary metals, and no one can deny that they've been used as a form of payment or settlement in the past. But in current times, only gold is really ever used as a form of payment or settlement. What have the central banks been buying overwhelmingly for the last decade? Gold. When all the BRICS hype was happening, it wasn't like people were talking about a silver-backed currency. No, it was a gold-backed currency. Maybe, just maybe, getting rid of this idea that silver is money would be better for silver, like it was for platinum. Think about how we talk about these three monetary metals within our community. How often do we really mention platinum? It's almost an afterthought, and even when we do bring it up, we often reference it in terms of the use of cars and industrial applications, not as money. Maybe some of our frustration with silver and its lack of performance is related to us holding on to silver as money, when in fact it shouldn't be considered that way. I know that a few of you are already upset with me. Calm your emotions for a moment, because the assumption is that if silver isn't considered money, that means it's less valuable or important. I'm actually trying to say the exact opposite, and the way Keith Newmeyer says is perfect. I think after you listen to his full clip, you might take a different perspective.
I don't look at silver as money. I look at silver as a strategic metal. I think it's a critical metal and a strategic metal. I don't think silver will ever become money. That's my view. I know a lot of people think I'm crazy for saying that, but that's, gold is money. Silver is a strategic metal. Something that we need as the human race to do anything that we need to do.
As much as I resisted this idea at first, I realized that what he is saying is actually 100% right. We really shouldn't view silver as money. It should be considered a strategic and critical metal. And you may hate me for saying this, but if we see silver as a strategic and critical metal, that actually could make it more valuable than what it would be viewed as money. If silver simply remains the little brother to gold or poor man's gold, the price of silver will always be limited by the price of gold. Let's go back to platinum for a moment. Until recently, platinum has always been at a higher price than gold. And again, rarely do people refer to platinum as money. Maybe, just maybe, if silver is considered a strategic and critical metal, it would be treated and priced very differently. I know what you're thinking. Gold and silver have been money from the beginning of time. Heck, it's even in the Bible. So how could we not look at silver as money? Well, the reality is things change over time. We just have to accept that as a fact or reality. The role of silver as money has continued to decline over time. Just consider for a moment that holding on to silver as money is limiting and de-emphasizing the much, much bigger and more important role that silver actually plays. Listen to Keith Newmeyer's words again.
Gold is money. Silver is a strategic metal. Something that we need as the human race to do anything that we need to do.
Something we need as a human race to do anything we need to do. More on that in a second. I have to tell you, it's kind of hard to argue that silver is money when more than half of its use is in industrial application, and it's being depleted every day. I think the challenge for us lies in the slow but intentional demonetization of silver that has occurred over the last 100+ years. We all know that the Coinage Act of 1792 laid the foundation for our monetary system, which recognized both gold and silver as official forms of money. However, the Gold Standard Act of 1900 established the gold standard as the basis for our monetary system, which we all know didn't last very long. Regardless, this act declared that the gold dollar was a standard unit of money. This act allowed for the conversion of existing silver certificates into gold certificates, which reduced the circulation of any silver-backed currency. This essentially solidified the use of gold as a primary monetary metal and significantly devalued silver. From what I can tell, this is where silver really lost its role as money in our monetary system. Fast forward through FDR's infamous Act of 1933 and the Bretton Woods agreements, and the final blow for silver was the Coinage Act of 1965, which officially ended silver's inclusion in our coins, and how we ended up with all the 90% silver or junk silver. Part of the impetus for the shift was because of silver price had gone so high that the silver value exceeded the face value of the coinage. Kind of like now, where a silver eagle retails for around $35, but only has a face value of $1. After the Coinage Act, Nixon finished off gold and silver as money in 1971. All of this matters because the removal of silver from money further highlighted silver as a boss of a metal And we know this because at one point, the US government had squirreled away more than 139 million troy ounces as a part of its strategic and critical stockpiles. Some of this was tied to an incredible number of uses by the military in amounts that have never been fully disclosed. Fast forward to today, and the incredible industrial applications for silver continues to grow. This is what most channels focus on, the value-added role of silver in industry. And it's hard to argue that there's another metal as special as silver, period, end of the sentence. But what people often fail to grasp is that the industrial value of silver is not the same as the monetary value silver bugs attribute to it, and that drives silver bugs crazy. Let me give you an analogy. Let's take an acre of land. That land may be only valued at $1,600 if it's used for farming. But if that same acre of land was used by a developer to build, let's say, 4 homes, how much would that plot of land be worth then? Far more than $1,600 an acre. And the developer of that land would gladly pay more than $1,600 an acre to acquire it. And that's because the value they can create by building the home on the land. The farmer and the developer are running 2 very different businesses, and depending on the business, the plot of land has very different values. Silver as an industrial metal is essential, if not critical, like farmland is to a farmer, but that doesn't mean the farmer can pay what the developer can pay. With more than 50% of silver's usage being in industrial application, that becomes the real driver of price, not the less than half of 1% of the people that invest in gold and silver like you and I. I'm not sure anyone really has to manipulate the silver market when industry is what really drives the price. This is why I believe the gap in the gold to silver ratio has continued to increase over time, as you can see in this chart. After all, markets do really work. Keith Neumeyer, Mr. Triple Digit Silver, which he's been saying that since 2010, by the way, is 100% right. It is a strategic and critical metal, and its greatest value to you and I is not in the form of money, but in the form of industrial applications, where it has and continues to raise the quality of our lives. Its usage spans the whole gamut of industry. It truly is an amazing metal, dare I say, far more amazing than gold. Unfortunately, at this point in time, the supply and demand forces for silver are not enough to move prices to the levels we expect or have hoped for. I wholeheartedly believe this is why silver prices have always hovered at these lower levels and not appreciated at the same rate as gold. It's not that silver isn't valuable, but as I shared, for more than 100 years now, silver has slowly been decoupled from gold and from being regarded as money. As Keith said, silver is needed for almost everything we want to do as a race of people. The challenge for us silver bugs is the desire to hold silver as money when the rest of the world wants to hold and use silver for its industrial applications. In fact, if you really think about it, touting the values and virtues of silver in industrial applications by stackers only weakens the argument that silver should be regarded as money. Ultimately, I hold silver not because it's money or because I believe it should be used as money or because of its industrial applications. I hold silver as a speculation because of the potentially explosive price movement it will have when people and their money rotate into the sector for whatever reason. I hold platinum for the same reason.
So that's why I say it's a very strategic and critical mineral that you have to have in your portfolio.
The great news for silver, and you might think I'm a little crazy for saying this, but I could easily see it priced at the same level as palladium, platinum, and rhodium. Notice I said one day. I believe that day is inevitable, but that doesn't mean that day is imminent. That, my friends, might take decades, and we're just not there yet. Regardless, what we hold in the form of silver is still extremely valuable. I made this video because I want you to understand this concept. It's much easier to understand and accept the price movements of silver because of this understanding. It becomes easier to understand why I say the historical average gold to silver ratio may not be a good predictor of silver price, because gold and silver have decoupled in some real ways over the last 120 years. My hope is that it becomes easier to develop reasonable expectations for the price of silver with this new understanding. It will also help you understand that when the price of silver spikes, it will almost certainly come right back down, as it has always done, because the flood of money that causes it to rise will inevitably flow somewhere else. This is why I preach you have to be willing to swap your silver for gold or sell it when the euphoria kicks in. Even if you hold the paper money just so you can buy it back at a lower price, at least use the price spike to increase your number of ounces. I want to submit to you that the power of silver is not in its monetary role. And in fact, that could be part of the problem. Silver is a critical and strategic metal, and when the world and the government begin to treat it that way, silver will truly go to the moon. I'm almost afraid to say anything about comments because I can only imagine how many people may be pissed off at me right now. My hope is that you truly hear me out, consider the information, and figure out how you can use that as an investor and a holder of this critical and strategic metal. Regardless, in the comments, do you think silver should be considered a strategic or critical metal, as Keith Neumeyer suggested, or should it be considered money, or both? Should silver be more valuable based on its industrial usage, monetary role, or both? Or you can simply put an A+ in the comments so that everyone knows that you always stack smarter and never stop learning.